each screening, there was a talking going on. And I was like watching the audience going, what? The second time it happened, again, third time, talking in this one particular spot. And I'm thinking, what, did we do something wrong?
I called her out. I was like, Ellen's not that nice.
This was after you went on the show?
After I went on the show.
So you worked for Ellen as well?
Yeah, I did the first 2 years on that show.
And she was.
She was rough. She was the C word. Yeah.
The Ellen situation.
Yeah.
You know, people found out that Ellen was mean, and all these people came out and said, Ellen's actually a
Jim Caviezel says he knew how Ellen DeGeneres treated people behind the scenes. He claims he saw a side of her that most viewers never saw on TV. When you look at certain events connected to people close to Ellen, it makes some people pause. Anne Hesh, who once dated Ellen, died after a serious car crash that raised many questions. Kat Perekop also passed away in a way that some found hard to understand. Then there was the sudden death of Steven Twitch Boss, the well-known DJ from Ellen's show, which shocked many fans. Because these tragedies all involve people linked to Ellen, some people are asking the same question. Is this all just coincidence, or is there more to the story? There are no clear answers. But the repeated connection has made people curious and concerned.
I can't believe it. And she lost everything. She fell apart, disappeared, because people found out that this character that she was portraying in a half an hour on a television show is not really who she was. My buddy Greg, who was one of her writers, was like, she's a piece. And he was like, she's a monster.
For years, Ellen DeGeneres was known for one simple message: be kind. She was the dancing host who gave away cars, made people laugh, and brought tears of joy to millions of viewers. That was the image the world saw. But recently, actor Jim Caviezel started speaking out, and what he had to say sounds nothing like the kind and warm person Ellen claimed to be. To understand what Jim revealed, we need to go back a few years. That is when former employees of The Ellen Show began coming forward with shocking stories. They described the workplace behind the cameras as toxic, uncomfortable, and far from the cheerful environment Ellen projected on screen. People who worked on the show talked about being treated poorly, feeling ignored, and experiencing a culture that felt the complete opposite of Ellen's famous "be kind" motto. So the question became clear: was the kindness real? Or was it simply a performance for the cameras?
Ellen DeGeneres feeling the heat as more employees, past and present, from her show say that they were working in a toxic environment. Some Hollywood actors also speaking out against the talk show host now.
These were not just rumors. Formal complaints were actually filed against Ellen and her company. As a result, 3 of the show's top producers quietly left. That alone was a big deal. But the problems did not stop with employees. In 2018, an audience member named Dana DiMatteo shared her own experience, and it was eye-opening. Dana was not your average viewer watching from home. She was a genuine fan who flew all the way from Chicago to Los Angeles just to attend the show. She was excited and happy to be there. Things got even better when she was picked to take part in the popular Make It Rain segment, where a contestant gets soaked with water while trying to win cash prizes. Sounds like fun, right? But what Dana witnessed behind the scenes told a very different story. She says that the moment the cameras stopped rolling, Ellen's warm and friendly personality disappeared. Ellen would sit quietly on her couch, not acknowledging anyone around her. No smiles, no interaction, nothing. And before the show started, producers gathered the guests and gave them a clear set of rules. Dana says they were told directly that they were not allowed to be funnier or smarter than Ellen. They could only speak when Ellen asked them a question. They were even made to scream and jump around backstage as some kind of test before going on air. Dana described the whole experience as deeply humiliating. Then came the Make It Rain segment. Dana got completely soaked, and when it was over, she was told to go backstage in her wet clothes and simply wait. No dry clothes were brought to her. No one checked on her. She and others sat there, cold and uncomfortable, for almost the entire duration of the show. According to Jim Caviezel, Dana's experience was not unusual. He claims it was just a small glimpse of who Ellen really is behind closed doors. As more employees came forward and the 3 top producers departed, people began looking deeper into Ellen's past. Specifically, they started looking at the people who had been close to her personally, and what they found raised serious questions. Ellen's personal history includes unexplained deaths, a mysterious car accident, and former partners who met tragic ends. This led many people to wonder whether Ellen's toxic behavior extended far beyond the walls of her TV studio.
Ellen remotely addressed her staff about the current allegations of turning a blind eye to a toxic work environment. She reportedly teared up and apologized, saying she's not perfect, and calling the disturbing allegations of the atmosphere on her show heartbreaking. She also responded to rumors that staffers are not allowed to look her directly in the eye, calling them crazy and not true.
To understand why people like Jim Caviezel are raising serious questions about Ellen DeGeneres, you need to go back to the 1990s. That is where the story of Anne Heche begins. Anne was not just another ex-girlfriend, she was a rising star in Hollywood. Critics loved her work. She was talented, beautiful, and bold. She had just appeared alongside Al Pacino in the film Donnie Brasco. At the time, she was dating actor and comedian Steve Martin. Then she met Ellen. This was 1997. Back then, it was risky for a major actress to date another woman publicly. It could end careers. Studios were not supportive. The media could be cruel, but Anne did not let any of that stop her. She walked red carpets with Ellen by her side. She spoke openly about their relationship in interviews. She did not hide or pretend. She put her entire career on the line because she believed in being honest about who she was. Anne took a huge risk at a time when very few people in Hollywood were willing to do the same.
You are our best dressed couple this year.
No,
thank you.
Yes, we're very grateful for that award.
Well, we know that your Emmy meant a lot and all. I mean, come on, a big year, but the Golden Hanger, significantly more emotional.
The Emmy is like, I don't even know where that is. The Golden Hanger is right on the mantle. We were crying for days.
And now, who are we wearing tonight?
Well, we are wearing Pamela Dennis, and we are wearing Voyage.
For a while, the relationship between Ellen and Anne seemed to be worth all the risk. They were deeply in love, or so it appeared. But according to multiple biographies and insider accounts, the relationship was more than just passionate. It was intense and consuming. Friends who knew them at the time said the two were inseparable. They spent nearly every moment together. Then something changed. Ellen pulled back. Why? The pressure from Hollywood became too much. Studios were reportedly unhappy with the public nature of their relationship. There were rumors that projects would be taken away if Ellen continued to be openly linked to Anne. The industry was sending a clear message. So Ellen made a decision. She chose her career over love. And Anne? She was left behind.
Ellen was far from nice. We're out there for years. What was your reaction to the toxic workplace controversy?
I felt that it was in the hands of the people who needed to speak their truth. I hadn't spoken to Ellen in years, and I feel that the stories that need to be listened to are being told.
Did the stuff about her being emotionally abusive to her staff ring true to you?
Emotionally abusive is a container for our actions that we've not healed. And unfortunately, the abusive environment was something that I understood.
What happened after the breakup is a matter of public record, and it is heartbreaking. Anne suffered a very public and very serious mental health crisis. She was found in Fresno, California, more than 200 miles away from Los Angeles. She was wearing strange, minimal clothing that made no sense. She reportedly walked up to a stranger's door and knocked. When they opened it, she told them she was looking for a spaceship to take her to heaven. Anne was hospitalized and diagnosed with a mental breakdown, but she did not give up. Over time, she recovered. She rebuilt her life. She married a man named James Tupper. They had a son together named Atlas. She continued acting and kept moving forward. For 22 years, Anne survived. Then came August 5th, 2022. That morning, Anne was driving her blue Mini Cooper through the Mar Vista neighborhood of West Los Angeles. It was around 11 inches the morning. What happened next has been the subject of much debate ever since.
What happened out here at LA City Fire Department, I got to give it to them right off the bat. The men and women from this fire department, some of the most amazing. Vehicle into a structure, then that car catches fire. And when we say into a structure, I mean all the way in, almost coming out the other side. This house out here on Walgrove, right at the cross of Brookhaven, at Preston, you can see that T intersection. The best we can figure, that vehicle was on this street and made its way way across, not stopping ever, through those hedges, through the front door, or through that front wall of this home, and lodged itself almost in the back. Then it caught fire. LA City Fire Department arriving here very quickly.
Ann's car sped through a junction, jumped a curb, and crashed straight into a 2-story house. The impact was so violent that the building practically swallowed the car. Ann was trapped inside for nearly 45 minutes. Firefighters arrived quickly, but they faced heavy fire and thick black smoke. It took them almost an hour to cut her free from the wreckage. When they finally pulled her out, she was alive, but barely. Days later, Ann Heche passed away in the hospital. The official cause was inhalation injuries and burns. She also had a broken sternum from the force of the crash. Toxicology reports were later released. They found inactive traces of drugs in her system. This meant past use, not active impairment at the time of the crash. That is the official story. But online, theories began to spread. And while we want to be very clear that these are only theories, they raised questions that some felt the official report did not fully answer. First, there were conflicting reports about Ann's condition right after the crash. Some news outlets said she was stable. Others claimed she was intoxicated and acting erratically. People wanted to know which account was true. Second, some wondered whether Ann's car could have been tampered with. Modern cars run on computer systems. A few engineers have said that remote manipulation of such systems is technically possible. Is it likely? That is unclear, but the question was raised. Third, and this is the theory that spread the most, Ann's final film was called Girl in Room 13. The movie dealt with human trafficking, a dark and disturbing subject. Some people online suggested that the film made Ann a target. They claimed that powerful people involved in that world did not want the movie released. They said Ann knew too much. We must be absolutely clear here. This claim has been debunked by fact-checkers. There is no evidence connecting Ann's death to that film. But the theory exists online, and we are showing you what people are saying, not what we believe to be true. Now let us talk about Ellen's response. Ann Heche and Ellen DeGeneres shared a deep and meaningful past. Their relationship changed both of their lives. You would think that after such a tragedy, Ellen would say something heartfelt. Even after years apart, you would expect some kind of public emotion, but that did not happen. Ellen's response was brief. She released a short statement. There was no extended tribute, no visible grief, no real acknowledgement of what Ann once meant to her.
That's Ellen DeGeneres, spotted out in public for the first time since her ex, Ann Heche, crashed her car into a home in LA.
Have you spoken to Ann Heche at all since her accident?
If not,
Do you want to...
we're not in touch with each other, so I wouldn't know.
For a woman who built her entire brand on the words, "Be kind," that silence spoke volumes. And Ann Heche was not the only name connected to Ellen's troubled history. Before Ellen became a household name, she was in a relationship with a woman named Kat Perkoff. Kat died in a car accident. But not a straightforward one. Kat was driving a Mercedes-Benz 450 SL when her car crashed sideways into a large tree. The impact was so severe that the car split completely down the middle. Years later, Kat's sister said something that has stayed with people ever since. She claimed the car appeared to have been tampered with. The frame, she said, looked as though it had been pre-cut to break apart at high speed. There was something else that caught people's attention. Investigators found no skid marks at the scene. When a driver loses control of a car, skid marks are almost always present. Their absence led some people to believe that Kat may have been forced off the road, or that her brakes had been interfered with. To be fair, police investigated and ruled it an accident. No foul play. Case closed. But then came Ellen's reaction. People who knew her at the time described it as cold. According to multiple accounts, Ellen reportedly drove past the crash site without stopping. Over the years, she has mentioned Kat's death in interviews and spoken about how difficult that period was for her. But the image of her driving past the wreckage without stopping left a lasting impression on those who heard about it. That was the first death connected to Ellen's life. It would not be the last. Most people knew Leslie Jordan by his face before they knew his name. He was the small, funny, warm Southern gentleman who could light up any room just by walking into it. He was a close friend of Ellen's, a regular guest on her show, and at times a co-host. On October 24, 2022, just months after Anne Heche's crash, Leslie Jordan lost control of his car and drove into a building in Hollywood. He was 67 years old. Authorities believed a medical emergency, possibly a heart attack, caused him to lose control while driving. No evidence of foul play was found, none at all. But people noticed the pattern. Another sudden death, another person connected to Ellen, another car accident. What also caught people's attention was how differently Ellen responded to Leslie's death compared to Anne's. With Leslie, she posted publicly. She called him a light. She expressed genuine warmth and sent love to his family. It felt real and appropriate. But with Anne, there had been near silence. That contrast made some people uncomfortable. Why such different reactions to two people she had been close to? Then came the loss that hit hardest for many fans. Stephen Boss, known to the world as Twitch, was the DJ on The Ellen Show from 2014 until the show wrapped in 2022. He was not just an employee. He felt like the heart of the show. He danced, he laughed. He brought genuine joy to everyone watching. On December 13th, 2022, Twitch passed away suddenly. He was only 40 years old. The cause was listed as a medical emergency at a hotel in Los Angeles. Beyond that, very little detail was shared with the public. That lack of detail left room for questions. Ellen posted a heartfelt tribute on Instagram. She called him pure love and light and expressed deep sorrow. To many, it seemed sincere. But online, some people questioned whether her grief was genuine, especially given what former employees had said about how people were treated behind the scenes of her show. For those already paying attention, Twitch's death felt like one more data point in a growing and uncomfortable pattern. Another person close to Ellen, gone too soon. That is when people online started using one specific word: curse. Some began calling it the Ellen curse, pointing to the deaths of Leslie Jordan and Twitch as proof. Hollywood curses are not a new idea. The 27 Club, the Poltergeist curse, the Superman curse, these stories have existed for decades. Once enough tragedies surround one person or one show, people start connecting the dots, whether those dots are truly connected or not. But here is where we come full circle. Remember how this all started? Jim Caviezel said he knew what Ellen did to people close to her. Now, with all of this in the background, more people than ever are asking the same question. What exactly did he mean?